Time for business news now. Stephen Carroll joins me. Stephen, good morning to you. We've been looking at the market reaction to the latest twist in the controversy over the dismissal of the former FBI chief, James Comey.
We're seeing concerns over that controversy play out across the markets today and how it might affect the Trump administration. The dollar has fallen against the Japanese yen and the euro in trading today. Overall, measured against a basket of currencies, the dollar is now at levels not seen since the election last November in the United States. So you can see down nearly 0.75% against the yen in trading today. Those fears playing into the stock markets as well. European shares opening the day down. The start of trading, London, Paris and Frankfurt all seeing falls. The CAC 40 here down by 0.5%. Similar picture on the Asian markets as well, falls across most of the bourses there as well. Exporters in Japan being hurt by the weaker dollar as it makes their goods more expensive. The main concern for investors here is whether this controversy could derail some of the measures that they've been hoping for, like tax reforms, which is very important to the business community. In uncertain times, you know that people like to put their money somewhere safe. Gold, the ultimate safe haven asset, unsurprisingly rising in value today. It's up over 0.5% in trading. That's the highest it's been since the start of this month.
Right, well, staying in the US, where the sugar industry has gotten somewhat sour on Mexico, it appears.
American sugar producers have been calling for the US to set quotas on imports of Mexican sugar since last year. But Donald Trump's anti-Mexico rhetoric has emboldened them in their campaign. They've stepped up efforts as Mexican trade officials arrived in Washington for talks. Rebecca Rosman has more.
No sweet compromise yet in the US-Mexico sugar trade dispute. The US sugar industry is pressuring the Department of Commerce to renegotiate a trade deal, which they say is putting their industry at a disadvantage. But Mexico says doing so would be unfair.
There is no reason to treat Mexico differently. I think regarding the issue of prices, we can negotiate on this. I believe there is room to do something that works for sugarcane producers in Louisiana, for example.
Under the current agreement, signed in 2014, Mexico exports more than half its refined sugar to the United States. But US sugar lobbyists want that amount cut to just 15%, or scrap the deal entirely. The demands from the US sugar industry have been bolstered since President Donald Trump took office in January, much to the chagrin of Mexican sugarcane producers.
We hope that nothing happens, that this comes to a good conclusion.
Well, yes, we need to open trade so that we can continue producing sugar cane.
The US and Mexico say they hope to reach an agreement by June 5th, before beginning talks to renegotiate NAFTA.
Well, Stephen, let's turn to the UK next, where the London property market is really feeling the pinch after Brexit.
Research from Deloitte has found that the percentage of vacant office space in London jumped by almost 50% in the first 3 months of this year. That's the biggest jump since 2009. Now, at the start of 2016, just under 4% of offices in the city were empty. That's nearly 6% now. Many businesses, particularly in the financial sector, have been looking to move staff elsewhere as the UK prepares to leave the European Union. Earlier this week, the bank JP Morgan bought office space in Dublin with space for 8,000 staff.
Right, well, let's stay in the UK. The government bringing to an end one of the biggest bailouts of the financial crisis. The
British government has sold the last of its remaining stake in the Lloyds Banking Group. It had taken a £20 billion stake in the lender, I should say, at the height of the financial crisis almost 10 years ago to save it from collapse. Now, altogether, the state made a profit of some £900 million or over €1 billion for the taxpayer from selling that stake.
All right, finally, Chanel's latest design has somewhat backfired, to say the least.
The French luxury brand somewhat surprised consumers when it offered a boomerang for sale online for €1,260. More than that, representatives of the Indigenous community in Australia have called it an example of cultural appropriation. The price tag, unsurprisingly, has caused some upset on Twitter. The Brisbane rapper Kyla Truth tweeting that it better be enough to return even after knocking out a kangaroo and the Chanel CEO for lunch. Chanel telling The Guardian in Australia that it regrets any offence caused by the object or the price tag.
Certainly an offensive price tag there, €1,260 for a boomerang.
A lot.
Very interesting. All right, Stephen, thank you very much for the business roundup.